Hey, my name is Mo Rahim, and this is Mary Jane Markets. Today we're still playing catch up on the August news cycle. I want to apologize again for not posting anything for a few weeks in August while I was busy with my day job and family events. I also apologize for the production issues I've been having. I'm working on cleaning up the audio, as well as some other things that will make it easier to watch. I have a lot to cover today, including news on the sector, state policy updates, as well as company-specific news on Cresco Labs, Curaleaf, and TrueLeaf. So let's jump into it. I'm going to try to get through these at a good pace and not mess around with scene transitions and stuff like that. First off is a Financial Times article that was brought to my attention by Curaleaf's Twitter account. And the article itself isn't particularly interesting, but this chart that was shared out did stick out to me. This is a graphic on illicit and legal sales in a percent bar graph made by New Frontier Data. And I want to start the show with this just to show everyone how much opportunity there still is in the sector. Like I said in my very first episode, the industry is a lot bigger than people think it is, and the revenue growth we went over in the last episode that recapped Q2 earnings could potentially not slow down anytime soon as one, more states legalize and our MSOs expand into them, and two, illicit sales are converted into legal sales. Just take a look at the market in California, which we know to be huge, but a majority of the demand there is still being serviced by the black market. The black market in that state is so large that legal sales in the state could double, meaning the sales collected by our MSOs in that state could still double. And this just goes to show how much growth potential there is still left in a state that's been recreational for a while now. I won't harp on about this for too long, but I just wanted to highlight it again here to let everyone know that we're still very much in the early innings of this, and to get you excited. Every time I see data like this, it gets me more pumped because it means there is a lot of opportunity and growth ahead of us. Transitioning over to our second topic that goes sort of in hand with the first is this Pew Research Center survey results. This was published earlier this year, but I just came across it because of this GTI tweet. But if we go over to the actual article published by Pew Research Center, the article is titled, "Americans Overwhelmingly Say Marijuana Should Be Legal for Recreational or Medical Use." They provide a nice graphic here we can walk through. I'll just expand it in a new window. So in early April of 2021, Pew Research Center asked over 5,000 people for what purposes should marijuana be legal, and 60% of those responded with for medical and recreational use. Another 31% responded with for medical use only. Only 8% said it should not be legal, and 1% didn't respond. So true to the title, the overwhelming majority here, 91%, said that marijuana should be legal for medical or recreational use, with the majority being for both medical and recreational. Those are the headline results, but this article also breaks this data down over other dimensions such as race and age, whether respondents lean more Democrat or Republican, which is cool to see. I'm a data nerd. That's what I do every day at my day job. I'll pop these graphics up in another window so you guys can have a better look at them while I'm talking. Personally, I like this line of questioning of should it be legal better than some other surveys that ask more about personal use to gauge support for legalization. I think we all realize by now, though it might not come to mind when reading about survey results, that the phrasing of these questions and the options that respondents have matter a lot when it comes to the outcome of those results. And I think 91% support from a surveyed population is the highest I've seen yet. And part of that might be because of, I'll say, the neutral manner in which this question was asked. All right, moving on from sentiment around the sector to some specific market data. Marijuana Moment reported on August 25th that in the month of July, Arizona brought in $21 million in tax revenue, which is all well and good, but I'm more interested in the actual sales numbers. So if we go over to the Arizona Department of Revenue website, which is the source for the information behind that article, we can see that the tax data for July is still being finalized, as well as the sales data. But we have some good data here to work off of from this estimation of 21 million. I think we can predict sales for July. So I attempted to do that here. Let me resize this. All right, so I've taken the tax and sales data from the Arizona Department of Revenue's website. And for each month here, I've just calculated an effective tax rate. So just as a reference point, recreational was legalized in the state in the first month. So that tells us why January's numbers are so low. That recreational program has been ramping up over the last 7-8 months, while the medical program has been in full swing. So anyway, I take an average of these tax rates, leaving out January, and I get 15.85%. And then some simple algebra gets us the estimated sales number for July. And that comes out to $131.6 million, which implies a month-over-month growth rate of around 18%. So that would suggest a record sales month, but we're working off estimates here, so take this with a grain of salt. We can see that the trend for the last 6 months has been that sales have slowed down a bit. That's been indicative of a broader trend as consumption was boosted with quarantine, and with things opening back up, seems to be slowing down a bit. But there is an even stronger correlation between taxes collected and sales. So taxes being around 21 million set a record tax month for the state. So I don't think it's too far-fetched to say that we could see a record sales count for that state as well. The second thing we can do with this data is project out sales for 2021. So if we hop over to my market landscape spreadsheet, all right, a quick resize there too. For new listeners, this is a spreadsheet I put together taking each state's GDP and then distributing my estimate of the total cannabis market proportionally among the states. So the bigger the economy, the more people, the bigger the total cannabis market in the state. So just walking through one of these for new viewers, California is the largest market in the nation with around $3.2 trillion in GDP. Of the United States is $21.6 billion. That comprises 14.6% of the nation's GDP. If I take my potential total cannabis market estimated at $152 billion, 14.6% of that would be $22.2 billion. And I did that for each state here in column E. And then column G here is the final numbers coming out of each state for 2020, because this is my 2020 spreadsheet. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Arizona here is the 12th largest market in the nation. Comprising 1.7% of GDP and 1.7% of my estimate of the total cannabis market is around $2.6 billion. In 2020, they sold just over $1 billion in cannabis, in legal cannabis. Now, going back over to that other spreadsheet, we can make an estimate for the rest of the year and see how we compare to last year. Let me zoom in here once more. Now, if I add the first 6 months of the year, those sales total $610 million. We can double that, get a conservative estimate for the year at $1.2 billion. So that implies a 20% growth rate over last year. But these first couple of months, sales were really low as the recreational market was just opening up and starting to ramp. I think what makes more sense is to take the last 3 months of sales and multiply that by 4, which comes out to around $1.4 billion, which implies a 40% growth rate year over year. And that seems more realistic to me for this market. So that's what I'm going to update my 2021 Arizona estimate as. All right, moving on to my home state of Illinois. Something else that happened while I was AWOL was the third of our 3 lotteries for more licenses in the state. This happened on August 19th, and this was for 75 licenses. And the applicant pool here was restricted to all applicants that received a score of 252 points or higher on their application. This compared to the first lottery, which was for 55 licenses, and applicants must have at least 213 points. And the second one, which was a social equity lottery. So the bar here was a little higher. And here is the release of winners. And I won't read through all of this, but to give you a little bit of background, so you're not lost as I'm scrolling through this, Illinois, the state, is split up into 17 regions for the purposes of this lottery, and each region gets its own drawing, and each region also gets a different number of winners based on the population in that region. So below are listed all of the winners. And unfortunately, again, left off of this list are the MSOs we follow on this channel that operate in Illinois, Fresco, Curaleaf, and GTI. But like I've been mentioning with the last 2 lotteries, though, this isn't a total loss since the companies can still get their products on the shelves of these dispensaries through wholesale means. And also, like I've been talking about on this channel, there is an ongoing lawsuit around these licenses. So while the lottery process can still pick winners, the actual licenses can't yet be granted to the winners until the lawsuit is sorted out. And the judge was supposed to give us an update on the case yesterday, August 30th, but we haven't heard anything. I've been reading that there was a cyber attack on that affected the government website where they would normally post information, and that hasn't been resolved yet. So I'll keep you guys updated. So those are the only updates I thought I had to give on the Illinois lottery. But on Friday, September 3rd, news broke of the state commission admitting that there were errors in the lottery process for the first lottery that was for 55 conditional licenses. That was held back on July 29th. And this is an article from the Chicago Sun-Times, which reports that this was a clerical oversight that left 6 applicant groups out of that first lottery. And so the state announced that there will be a 4th lottery, but that this affects only 5 of the 17 designated regions in the state. So depending on which regions were affected, this could be quite a big shakeup. Just to show you what I mean, if we hop back over to the results of the last lottery, I think I showed you guys that the state is divided up into 17 regions and that each region gets a different number of licenses based on population size in that region. So you can see here regions 1, 2, 3, 4 each getting 1 license. But then we come down to region 5 here, which is the Chicago, Naperville, Elgin region, receiving 47 licenses, since that is the most populous. So if this is one of the regions that is redrawn, this could be quite a shakeup to the winners. And that could mean that our MSOs, Cresco, Cureleaf, and GTI that operate in the state could potentially be awarded some licenses here. However, if they win licenses, that means somebody else has to lose licenses, and I don't think they're going to be too happy about that. And I'd expect another lawsuit, which could drag things out even longer. So there's the cloud to that silver lining for you. All right, let's move on to other government developments. Also, during my absence, New York got a new governor, which has shaken up the stall around the Cannabis Commission. To catch any new viewers up, though the state legalized recreational this year, the commission that presides over the market has remained unstaffed. So things like licenses and applications and new regulations and all of the bureaucratic stuff that is involved in overseeing the market has also been up in the air. That commission has to be proposed by the governor and then approved by the legislature. With everything going on under the last governor, that never happened. And then the New York legislature went on recess until next year. Well, the new governor, Kathy Hochul, called a special session to address, among other things, the unstaffed commission. And that special session is set to start this Wednesday, September 1st. So it seems we won't have to wait until next year for an update on the Empire State. And hopefully we'll see some progress there soon. And I'll keep you guys updated on that. A state that has made progress with their commission board is New Mexico. On August 6th, the state announced the names of the people that would be sitting on that board. And then on the 25th, the board announced that they are accepting new applications for recreational producers. This is being reported on by Marijuana Moment. So this is good progress for a state that went recreational at the end of June. If we hop back over to my market landscape spreadsheet, we can put New Mexico into context. It is the 30th largest market in the nation, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but that's still potentially a $760 million market. So all of that could come into play really quickly if the government keeps moving on. Or moving along, rather. On the flip side of that is Alabama's medical state program that is probably going to be delayed. Medicinal came online in the state this year, and last week, WSFA, a local news station there, reported on the expected delay. They spoke to the chair of the Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission, Dr. Stephen Stokes. So those medicinal growing licenses were supposed to be made available this September of 2021, but were pushed back a year by the legislature. The reasoning for this, according to Dr. Stokes, was that they thought that the commission could not be organized and get going this fast, but they are trying to work to get that moved up. If those licenses are handed out in September of 2022, it could very well mean that these products, like WSFA is reporting, that the medical products won't be available to patients until 2023. One of the benefits of going over all of this related news together like this is that we can see how much state governments impact the development of local markets. And that's exactly why I keep track of it and why I go over it on the show. Not to put too fine a point on this, but as investors, we want to track that these state markets are developing because it affects our companies which operate in these markets. It's great when we hear that a company is expanding into a new market like New Mexico or Alabama, but without the context of New Mexico starting to accept recreational grow applications and Alabama delaying their program we just talked about, that one piece of news isn't much good without the other. I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to cut this episode here because we're almost 20 minutes into it. So this episode will be the sector commentary and state policy updates for August. Like I mentioned at the very beginning, I also have specific company news I'll go into. So that'll be the next episode, and I'll put that out this weekend as well. Thank you for listening. If you want to contact me, I think the best way to do that is via Twitter. My handle there is at MJMarkets. You can also email me at maryjanemarkets@gmail.com. And again, I really want to thank all of you early viewers and subscribers. The quality of these videos, the production of these, and my hosting skills isn't really where I want it to be at yet. And I think there's still a long way to go before I feel like it's, up to my standard or the quality that I want it at. So I really want to thank you guys for subscribing and for engaging me, be that through views or likes.